Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to find out if Sandy or Lucky, who are friends of Arlene, have been able to get into the meeting. Also, somebody named Susie. Let's just do they both have the
They're
correct?
trying to let you in.
So who's the host tonight? Christian, have you got that handled? It's Chris R.
Yes, I do.
Okay, wonderful.
Nobody's coming up, and whenever they come up, I'm admitting them.
Okay, hopefully they've got the right ID and password. All right, without any further ado, I just want to, it's an honor and a privilege to introduce Arlene. I'm certainly going to let her tell her story, but I've heard her at the 24-hour meeting. It's 24 hours, rain or shine, every day, and that means a regular meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's not a we agnostic meeting. And I was kind of hesitant to bring her to that meeting, but they loved her so much. I mean, my stock has gone up in that meeting real big ever since I brought Arlene. The last thing I just want to say is listen to the wisdom, because Arlene is AA history. And if you have any kids or small pets, please remove them from the room, because this is not a PG show. And that's just the way we like it. Arlene, the floor is yours.
Arlene, alcoholic. How long am I supposed to speak?
50 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't.
5 minutes, but we decided we're not going to put a cap on your time tonight. So if you go a little bit over, it's not a big deal.
Okay, thank you. Well, as some of you know, I don't have a canned speech. Every time I share, it's something a little different, other than just a little of my history that I'll try to start out with. But I do jump around a lot, and I'm also 83 years old. So sometimes I forget where I was. So you need to remind me. So pay attention, please. I am 83 years old. That's my sobriety date by my name. I'm 52 years sober as of May 9th. And May 9th is very important to me because when I was 5 years old, I saw my father murder my mother. And when I was 22 years sober, I looked for my mother's family and found out that my mother's natal birthday was May 9th.
Wow.
Who knew? You know, I went out and drank twice. So why did I end up with that date as my AA birthday? Because that's when I got the real message to quit drinking. I was born in Cooley City. And it was called Mason City at the time. So it was hard for me to get a passport, because the city I was born in is now a part of Power Plant 3 of Grand Coulee Dam. So I had to get a special birth certificate. My friend's still texting me. She can't get in, but she's 27 years sober, and she's as crazy as I am. So she probably read something wrong. Anyway, I was born in that town, and I've gone back there 3 times. I was going to go back there again this year. I had a couple trips planned, and everything changed, partially because of my health, partially because of my age. I saw my doctor, I think it was Thursday, because I ended up in the emergency room last week with my left arm kind of frozen. I couldn't straighten it out. And I had a lot of pain in my elbow and my shoulder. And I've had 3 small strokes. At least that's what they call them and I call them. I don't really pay attention when they tell me. I don't know if other people pay attention when you go to the doctor. But I don't. For years, my partner was an ex-Navy nurse, and she would go with me. So she would remember what they said and understand, and then kind of try to keep me to do what they suggested, which I never have done. I told you I jump around a lot. Anyway, my father got away with killing my mother. And when I was 7 years old, and I asked him about the night that I saw it happen, he lied to me, and I knew it was a lie. And when he realized I'd seen what he did, even though I didn't understand it, he started threatening me, and he's threatened to kill me 4 different times in my life before he died, which was, I think, in '89. I can't remember when he died, but I remember when I got the call that he died, I went to an AA meeting and I couldn't stop crying. And I didn't know why I was crying, other than it was the first time in my life I felt safe. And they kept calling on me, and I just couldn't talk until after the whole meeting was over. And you know, I don't know about anybody else, but with this pandemic, and I hear some of you sharing this, is my sleep pattern is so fucked up. It's ridiculous. So I sleep 3 hours in the afternoon. I get up for 4 hours. I sleep 40 minutes and I get up, and it's up and down, and every day it changes. So I'm having a little bit of trouble concentrating, obviously. So it's not always that easy for me to talk about myself. I've been hospitalized 4 different times in my sobriety for PTSD or depression. When I was 25 years sober and I was hospitalized, I not only have an attitude, well, I'm an asshole. There's no other way to put it. And I have a badge to prove that I'm an asshole. And I like to throw it up there so you guys can see it. And I keep threatening to start a meeting for alcoholic assholes, but I can't stay home long enough to get a meeting started where I get a time where I could do something like that. But ASSHOLE stands for alcoholics sharing sober, helpful, odd life experiences. And obviously tonight, that's what I'm doing, sharing a lot of odd life experiences, jumping all over the place. I have a problem with a lot of words that they use in the program. A lot of the words I hear when I go to a meeting today don't even come from the book. They come more from hospitals and institutions, because I saw a big change happen when hospitals figured out they could make money. You know, $20,000 for a big book was a good deal back in the day. Now I think it's up to 30 or maybe 50,000 for a big book at a hospital. But they tried to give people something that AA wasn't giving them for free. And you know, I don't say I work the steps. I've never worked the steps. I've lived the steps to the best of my ability. And since I didn't understand them and I couldn't read a paragraph and remember what it said. So all I did in the beginning was read the first 3 steps over and over and write about them constantly. And but the reason I finally quit drinking was I happened to go to a meeting, and this is where a lot of people talk about my being part of the living history. Jimmy Burwell was in my home group, and Jimmy is the man that insisted on God as we understand him. And one night, some lady had shared about Jesus Christ getting her sober, and I didn't like anybody talking about God, let alone a religion. And she really hit on it. Unfortunately for the meeting, they made the mistake of calling on me next. And after I shared a few things, along with the fact that I personally thought they should feed the Christians to the lions and they were fucking overdue, I was not too surprised. I thought they might bar me from the meeting, and I'd already gone out and drank twice. I came to my first AA meeting in Houston, Texas in 1967. And I drank twice after that. Anyway, Jimmy came up to me after a meeting and suggested I look up the word God in the dictionary. And I wrote a lot, and I used my dictionary a lot, and people called me Dictionary Arlene back in the day. And I went home and I looked up the word God, and my dictionary had 3 descriptions. And one of them was the chief object of my affections. And I knew if I was going to stay sober, I needed AA. And it was the chief object of my affections, and it still is. But I still don't read the book the way, you know, when I think about it, a 3-year-old wrote the big book. And if I hadn't have changed after 3 years of sobriety, I wouldn't be here. I don't know about the rest of you. So I had to read the steps a little different. And one of the things I do share is the principles that I found in those first 3 steps that I was stuck on for 2.5 years. Nobody wanted to sponsor me. I was nuts. I have papers proving I was nuts. But I was actually, subconsciously trying to get myself thrown out of AA. I know nobody else ever did that, but I was. And so some of the words that have a lot of meaning to me are written. This is my 12 and 12. It was brand new when I stole it, and I still wasn't well, and I've used it quite a bit. But some of the words that mean a lot to me, that make those steps work for me personally, are the word principle. And it means a general truth or a law basic to other truths, or a beginning. And tradition means a custom transmitted from generation to generation, or dare to give across. And when I read the traditions, they usually only let me read them once at a meeting, because I read the second tradition as our leaders are but twisted servants. They do not govern. And since I'm one of the twisted servants, I feel perfectly honest in sharing it that way. But this word is real important to me, and it's the word practice. And the word practice is repeated in a lot of the steps and a lot of both the books. And it means, in my dictionary, it means to make use of habitually, often, to apply in action, to do repeatedly, to acquire skills. And for me, what that meant more than anything else is that I didn't drink one day at a time. And in the beginning, it was sometimes 1 minute at a time. And then the word spiritual, I say, when people ask me how I am, if I'm at the store or anywhere, I always say I am spiritually fit. And spiritual means pertaining to the immaterial nature of the soul. And it comes from to breathe or breath. And there are a couple other words that I'm not going to repeat or read, but the words that really have made the steps work for me are the beginning. Most of us have heard the word how, honesty, open-minded, and willingness. And so in my writing, what I found is that I lied to myself before I lied to anybody else. So honesty was real important. And it always takes me back to the first step, because I can stop drinking, but I can't stop thinking. And my thinking 90% of the time isn't about any of my fucking business. It's about my grandson, my daughter, my neighbors, the president, whoever it might be at any given time, or the car wash guy, or you name it. I can, my thinking can go way out there real quick. So I write. When I start thinking, I make a list of what I'm thinking. And then I write about everything I'm thinking, so I can see what's any of my business and what's none of my business. And I do a lot of writing because my thinking has very little to do with my business. It has, like I said, that's why I end up at step one anytime I start thinking. The second step I found with most people that I've shared with or worked with is the one that most people miss, and or they interpret it different than I do. Let's say they don't miss it, they just see it or hear it different. I read it as came to believe that sobriety could restore me to sanity, because I don't believe in a higher power. I never did. I'm never going to. But I do believe that if I stay sober, I think saner. And the spiritual principle that they came up with was open-mindedness. I was open-minded about other people, but it was pointed out that I was doing these steps so I could stay sober. And it was also pointed out that I wasn't open-minded about Arlene. Again, those tapes I had were what other people thought of me, not what I knew of me. And then one of my favorite steps to read is I'm going to go back to the second step, because in my writing, what I found, I couldn't find the word open-minded anywhere. So I was putting all these words together and reading stuff and writing. And what came up for me was that if I was truly open-minded, I forgave myself. If I hadn't forgiven myself, I wasn't being open-minded. And in my dictionary, the word forgiveness meant no longer require a penalty be paid. The penalty I kept paying because I wasn't open-minded about me or anybody else was I drank again. I punished myself. I was always apologizing for, I've been kind of working through this 10th step in a different way, so I'm going to jump in there and throw that in. But the 10th step, and reads, when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Well, hell, I'm an alcoholic. I'd admit if I was wrong, if I wasn't wrong, if you told me I was wrong, or if I thought I was wrong, or you thought I was wrong, I'd admit I was wrong. And I think that the step, I'm going to rewrite it for myself, or I haven't rewritten my steps myself. My book's so old, I can't open the pages, but I think it should read, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were right, promptly admitted it. How many of you can admit you're right even today? I'm working with people with 44 years of sobriety, and they're still beating themselves up for their thinking. Not what they did, but something they thought they should have done and they didn't do. And so I think that step ought to read, when we were right, promptly admitted it, because it would be a great practice. My first sponsor told me it would be the hardest thing I'd have to do is take credit for what I did right. And she was right about that. So it's honesty, open-mindedness, forgiveness. And then I really got the cinch on that open-mindedness. I was at a speaker meeting and the guy was explaining what open-minded meant to him. He said it meant an egg. And, you know, it kind of, I wasn't always paying attention, but I happened to hear him on that. And then he said, how many of you have ever broken an egg? Well, my hand shot up without thinking because it kind of caught my attention. It was different. And then he said, how many of you put one back together again? That's open-minded. If it happened, it happened. It's never going to be anything else than what happened. Well, it took me many years to get that kind of thinking and writing about it, to put that with my father killed my mother, and that was a fact. He couldn't change it. I couldn't change it. And the fear I had from that man that should have loved me was affecting all my relationships. When people loved me, I ran from them. When people didn't love me, like my father, I tried to make them love me. I tried to make my father love me. My father was an architect and an engineer, and he built houses. And so I become a carpenter. I remodeled houses for years. I worked and remodeled mobile homes for years until I lost my foot. The day before I was 10 years sober, I was out fishing, and we decided to get a boat. We were fishing on a bank and we decided to rent a boat. And so the friends with me went and got the boat, and the other friend, we went and got our fishing equipment, and we're walking back over to where the boat is. And I'm telling her she's doing it wrong. She's walking in the wrong place. And about that time, I slipped on the embankment, slipped about 3 feet, and the bones came out both sides of my ankle, tore my foot off. And I spent 11 hours in surgery trying to put it back on. I've got a picture somewhere of me with a cast up to my ass, trying to hold the foot in place, and the doctors weren't sure it was going to heal right because it was so damaged. He said he'd never seen one like that, and he hoped he never saw another one like it. Anyway, there I go jumping around again. I'll go back to a second. We got 3 spiritual principles: honesty, open-minded, forgiveness, willing to stay sober no matter what. I heard that a lot. Don't drink no matter what. And that kind of, I had little sayings in my head, and that was one that got me through a lot of years. And then humility was the 5th spiritual principle. And to me, humility is accepting that whatever happened was supposed to happen in my life, instead of feeling sorry for myself or trying to change it or change somebody else's idea about it, was simply accepting it. So whatever happened in my life is supposed to happen, and I'm okay with that. But when I work with somebody now, I work with a gal that when she is 25 years sober, she cut her throat with a box cutter, and somebody told her she needed to talk to me, and she called me. She was 25 years sober, and I told her, I'll work with you if you'll stick to those 5 principles for a year and a half. And she did. And at the end of a year and a half, I got to know her better. I got to know what her thinking was like and what was going on. And I put people in my car and I take them to the mountains to listen to the silence. And then I talk to them and I listen to them. And at the end of the year, I could tell her where she had in fact lived every one of the steps in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've done that with many people, and I've never worked with anybody that was willing to stick with those 5 spiritual principles for a year and a half that I haven't been able to point out where they had in fact lived every one of those steps. And I've done a lot of things. I didn't get it out. I've got copies of the newspaper. My uncle, when I found my mother's family, one of my uncles had kept a newspaper from the night my mother was murdered. And in that newspaper article, and I don't know where I put it, I got it around here somewhere, because, and I keep it because a lot of people share a lot of shit I don't believe. So I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere. I didn't get it out, but anyway, it made what I remembered real. They came home in a taxi cab. My dad always denied that. For over 15 years, I saw my mother laying in a pool of blood. I saw an image of her laying in a pool of blood. And I wasn't about to tell anybody that because I knew they had locked my ass up. So when I was about 10 years sober, I opened the phone book and I called a psychiatrist and asked for an appointment because it was getting scary to me that I was seeing this on a regular basis. And the doctor I called didn't have an appointment, but the secretary worked for him and another doctor, and he had an appointment. And I went to see him, and I saw him for 20 years on a regular basis. And that's how I dealt with getting to a point where I was able to go to my dad's grave and make an amends to him for me. And, you know, there's no canned thing about my life. There's no canned thing about how I lived it or how I talk about it or what I don't know why I'm saying some of this stuff. You know, something's been stuck in my head and I don't know why, but I guess maybe somebody here needs to hear it. But I thought I hear a lot of people talk about service work, and I thought service work was sleeping with newcomers. I may have not mentioned the fact that I'm a lesbian and I love seeing the cats on the screen, but I'm allergic to pussy, and a lesbian that's allergic to pussy is not a fun thing, I can tell you. But anyway, I thought service work was sleeping with newcomers. It kept me sober for 4 years, and none of them got drunk as far as I know. Now you know why he warned you to keep your kids out of the room. Anyway, there I am. I've lost my foot. Oh, I did a 12-step call, and I was knocked unconscious with a 2x4 and lost the sight of my right eye. So I've lost my right foot. Oh, I lost the sight of my left eye. I'm sorry, left eye. And my picker was not good, but I did a 12-step call on a woman. I met her on her first day of sobriety. I took her to meetings with me. And on the third day of sobriety, I moved in with her. And we were together for 38 years. That's the ex-Navy nurse. And she passed away in 2011. She had 38 years of sobriety. I won't say, you can think it, but yeah, I kept her mouth full. She couldn't drink. Anyway, I tell the guys I sponsor that sobriety is just like sex. Are you paying attention? Sex. Those people that are thinking, I hope to get your attention with that word. Anyway, sobriety is just like sex. It has to get hard to get good. So if your sobriety isn't hard yet, you're probably not doing it right or not thinking right. Anyway, I
We've lost Arlene for a moment. See if it's a lag. I think so.
Just one moment, folks, I think we're-
Are you calling them, Megan or Jeff?
All right, guys, I apologize for that. It looks like we lost signal. I'm gonna stop recording for a moment. Hopefully she will be back with us soon.